have to keep myself honest because otherwise, like I said, I could tell stories and be here all night, and we've got like some really good stuff coming. So when I talk about emotional intelligence, the definition that I use is that it's the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions and the emotions of others to achieve your desired outcome. Okay? It's understanding yourself, but also it's not just this navel-gazing internally, it's being aware of the people around you, keeping your antenna up for that. And some people say, well, isn't this just common sense? Well, yeah, but it's common sense to the nth degree. You can read the political and the social environments that you're part of. You can manage effectively through stress and basically be the kind of person that others want to be around, because at the end of the day, we all want to work with those we like and respect. So I've also heard it said, well, isn't EQ like IQ? Not really. Some people think they're sides of the same coin, but there is a difference. So we got lots of smart people here tonight and professors and such. Who knows where the history of the IQ test? I quit? No, not I quit. Okay, quick history lesson. It was developed in the 1900s, the early 1900s in France, and they were just going to fund public education for the first time, but they didn't want to throw their pearls before swine, so they wanted some way to make sure that the students that they were giving this amazing education to were smart enough to be able to take advantage of it. And so IQ is an aptitude measurement as it relates to learning stuff, okay? The difference is, though, that IQ is static. You're pretty much born with your IQ. There's not a whole heck of a lot that you can do to change that or modify it. Versus emotional intelligence, the great news is it's very flexible. And there's many things, including some, you're all going to leave here tonight with a higher emotional intelligence, because you're going to know two ways to actually work on this back at your desk tomorrow. They also found that IQ was very biased. So it did not respond well. There were significant differences in racial, cultural, sexual biases, versus the emotional intelligence instrument has been tested on hundreds of thousands of people, 42 countries, both sexes, and it's valid. And here's the so what part of my program again, in that IQ does not and cannot predict success, but emotional intelligence very much does. And so this metric, this tool, your emotional quotient is what it's called, was developed by an Israeli professor, Dr. Reuben Bar-On, and he got curious about, why do smart people fail? If you're so smart, why is the C-suite filled with people who aren't necessarily the smartest knife in the drawer, but they are the ones that have the highest emotional intelligence skills? And so he developed this test that measures this. And it was brought into the popular media in the 1990s by Daniel Goleman. He wrote books on this in the Harvard Business Review article that you can very easily Google and access to learn more about it. So now that we know what it is and sort of what it isn't, why it's not like IQ, I'm going to move to thing number 2, which is so what. So there's this thing out there. Well, take a minute and think back about who was a mentor to you, either personally or professionally, that had the greatest impact on your life, personally or professionally. What was it that they gave you? What kind of gifts did they make available to you? How are they being when they were with you? And I bet if you think about the distinction that I just made between IQ and EQ, well, you tell me. Raise your hand if there were some emotional intelligence traits in there. Were there interpersonal skills and adaptability? Did they help you feel supported and heard, right? So you'll see that EQ has already had an impact on your life. And it's actually borne out in practice. Studies have shown that 25 to 50% of all job success can be attributed to emotional intelligence skills. But in the C-suite, or even just with any leader, as high as 85 or 90% can be attributed to their emotional intelligence. And this has been validated in the real world as well. Coach Papa over here, in his military career, he talked about going to a recruiting office, and it's a perfect tie-in because, do you know, they did a study, and they were trying to figure out why are some recruiters so successful at getting folks to sign up. The difference was 3 key components of emotional intelligence that differentiated the successful recruiters from the unsuccessful ones. And so then what happened was they started putting recruiters in there who were a better profile fit. They tripled the success rates and saved millions of dollars. It also works in the corporate world. Partners in a consulting firm did the same sort of analysis. Why is one partner so successful and the other's not? When they started using emotional intelligence and getting the right people in there and getting the partners that weren't doing well to develop their emotional intelligence, they increased the net profit per partner by $1 million. So I don't know about you, but in my world, that's real money, and it does impact the bottom line. So increasing your overall emotional intelligence is important, but it is true that certain components of EQ are more important in certain jobs. So let's use salespeople as an example. As you could probably expect, a good salesperson is really high on the emotional intelligence attributes of assertiveness, optimism, and empathy. So, if you have a sales component to your job or to the career you're considering, let's talk about some of the tips and tools that you can use to increase that. Okay, we've now concluded part 2 of our program. We know what emotional intelligence is, and hopefully I've convinced you that it matters. So now let's get to the fun stuff, which are the tools you can take back with you. You may remember the laws of physics, that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? But most of our reactions are automatic. There's no thought process involved. I mean, it's instinctual. If you touch a hot stove, you pull your hand back with no real conscious thought other than ouch after you've already removed your hand. So you have paper in front of you. What I'd invite you to do is to draw an S, write the letter S, and then immediately to the right of that, write an R. So for every stimulus, there's a response. But our brains are inundated by stimuli all day long. And if we truly tried to process even a microfraction of that, we'd be paralyzed. So what most of us operate in is a stimulus response model that looks like this. There's absolutely no space in between. We're on autopilot, okay? To increase your emotional intelligence, we need to pull those apart and put an arrow in between them now on your paper, because this is the space where possibility lies. Think about it for yourself. You know this. If you're given 30 seconds to make a decision, there's not a whole heck of a lot of possibilities you can consider in that time frame. But if I gave you 30 days, oh boy, my arrow between the two could be pretty wide. You know, there's a lot of magic to coaching, and I made the investment to be professionally trained and certified to be as good a coach as I can be. But I do say that coaching is 90% about awareness, so you can make that conscious choice. I'll give you an example from one of my clients. He's a VP of quality, global quality, for a nutritionals company. And so this is a big job, and it's FDA regulated because you're ingesting it, and there's labeling requirements and all like this. And their forecasting, they could really use the help of some of the folks in this room, stinks because they're blowing it out of the water. They're getting 400 times more volume than they anticipated. And of course, quality is now the bottleneck. And so my client, I was called in because he's seen as this autocrat, as he's the dictator who judge, jury, executioner, and he was losing it because practically 24/7 everybody's coming to him saying, can you make this exception? We got to get this out the door. We got to do this. We got to do that. And you know what he was doing is he was responding to these emails like they were text messages or instant messages just all the time. And if you get hit with these one after the other, of course the man was losing it because he had no space in between. So our very first session, I gave him some homework, which is, dude, start batching your emails, get yourself in the right frame of mind, get your consultant hat on so that you can help these people solve the problem versus just being a no. And that created, you could practically hear the angels sing in this company when he started stretching out that arrow. So that's your first model to take with you. The next model, I call the alphabet model, which is probably insulting to its developer, Dr. Albert Ellis. And what he was all about was proving that we can use our rational mind to manage our emotions. And so if you write down on your piece of paper, A through E, A, B, C, D, E, this will be our second model, and I'll talk you through it. The A stands for the activating event. Basically, it's whatever the heck happened or what the stimulus, the S, was in our prior example. And the C is the result of that, the consequence of having that event happen. But what this model does is it takes it a little bit deeper by specifically recognizing that that C is a function of our beliefs, which is what B stands for. So we have beliefs about what's happened to us, and that impacts our response. And where the emotional intelligence of an event can be increased comes with the D. To the extent that we can debate, dispute, discard those beliefs that aren't working for us, or even just admit that another possibility is true, we have now stretched our arrow. We now have space for possibilities to come in. And based on that, you can make a conscious choice about what you want your E, which is the new effect of switching the beliefs, to be. It's giving you that ability to make a conscious choice. So let's take you back to my friend, the VP of Quality. And he heard about this model pretty early on as well. Because now once that we were putting some space in here, we had to look at the beliefs. And what his belief system was, and he's Greek, but I'm sure that had nothing to do with it, that anybody who questioned one of his rulings was questioning his authority. And don't they know that he's got 30 years of experience doing this, and he worked for some of the largest companies in the world, and they're daring to question his decision? So of course he responded in a less than happy way. And what I suggested is it possible that there's some other explanation for why they're asking for this? Like, General Nutrition Center, your biggest client, is screaming at them that they need this stuff like yesterday, and so of course they're coming to you for help to get this stuff out the door. Oh, yeah. Or maybe they know that it's out of spec, but they don't know what to do about it. What can be done quickly? What are the options? And so using this model got him to put his consulting hat on, and instead of being the island of the Department of No, he now thinks of himself as like a CSI investigator lab kind of guy who can think out of the box and actually help these folks achieve the same goal that their bonus is based on. So they were all on the same side. If you would like to have a copy of the alphabet model or a little white paper that it's like 3 pages long that explains it, I have some cards on the table and over here. Just drop me a line and I'd be happy to send that with you. And I'm a coach, right? So I can't leave you yet. We've done our 3 things, but I still have 2 minutes left. And in those 2 minutes, I'm going to get you into action even further, I hope. If you would like to learn more about this, I mentioned Daniel Goleman, his articles, and his book. But the one that I really use more with my clients is called the EQ Edge. EQ Edge. It's by Stein and Book. And the reason I like this is that it walks you through the model, all 5 realms of emotional intelligence, and all of the 15 components underneath that. But here's the so what piece. that lights me up is it gives you ideas, tips, and techniques. If you feel like you'd like to increase a certain area, there's actually a so what that you can put into action right away. And also on your table, there's a couple of these flyers, and there's more over there. If you would like an emotional intelligence checkup or tune-up, I put together a special offer as a thank you for being with us tonight. The assessment you can take online. It only takes about 20 minutes. It's confidential. You get a customized report. And we've sold the tool itself for over $550, but I've thrown in a coaching debrief and put together a very special price if any of you would like to come in for a tune-up. Because I don't know about you, but my clients right now at this time of year, they're doing their 2014 plans, they're working on development programs for themselves and for their teams, and they're doing performance reviews. So I thought it was very timely to make this tool available to you. I have 45 seconds left. If there are any questions, I'm going to be here all night, so I'd be happy to take them either in the Q&A. And I thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that you'll admit that you now know what emotional intelligence is, you know why it matters, and tomorrow, when you get back to your desk, I want you using those two models that we shared so that you'll have a more emotionally intelligent day. Thanks so much for your kind attention.
Isn't that interesting? I took like 4 pages of notes. One of the things that Eileen said that really resonated was, who was that person? For me, it was Coach Heckenlively. Coach Heckenlively did 2 things for me. Number 1, I was 5'9" in high school. I was fast and I could jump. 6 foot was my goal. I was going to high jump over 6 foot. Some of you in here might remember the Western roll before Dick Fosbury revolutionized the high jump. That's how I jumped.